Hi guys, and welcome back to another Dot Race video, and today we're going to be playing MotoGP 21 and we are going to be discussing my top 10 tracks of MotoGP 21. Quick disclaimer, I will only be using the official tracks and unfortunately not the historical tracks here today in today's video. Now starting at number 10 is going to be the Red Bull Ring of Austria, coming in our very first number on this particular list, and I quite like the Red Bull Ring and it's enough to put it in the top 10. But it ultimately didn't take any further spots because the rest of them are just amazing tracks. But I really do enjoy the Red Bull Ring. I think it's a extremely tough track to navigate and to master because of the level of difficulty in certain corners. But I really love the hard and firm braking zones, suggesting such as Turn 3, Turn 4 and many more of Red Bull Ring. I think it's a very fast flowing track, very difficult to master, but I very much enjoy it. And even in my career mode this season in MotoGP 21 I had a wonderful race fighting against Johan Zarco, Jorge Martin and some of the best riders in Red Bull Ring. And of course I think all the categories have a wonderful race here in MotoGP 21. The AI work extremely well here. They're quite aggressive but firm and fair as well at sometimes, and just overtaking in specific areas are just really fun to do. I do like the Red Bull Ring. I think it's a good start to the top 10 list. I hope you agree. If not, let me know in the comment section down below, of course. I think Red Bull Ring gives very mixed opinions for everyone. First and foremost, when I first seen the track, I didn't really care for it too much. But the more I've raced here in MotoGP 21 and some of the other MotoGP games, I'm happy to put Red Bull Ring at number 10 on my list. But now when we get across the line with Brad Binder, we're going to start our number 9 on the list, and number 9 being Termas de Rio Hondo circuit of Argentina, one of my beloved tracks of MotoGP 21. I very much enjoy racing here and have done for the past many years in MotoGP video games. I think it's a track that offers a lot, has a lot of brilliant overtaking parts, fast corners, short corners. The undulation is only a little bit because of course towards the end of the circuit you do drop down and go up a little bit, but mostly the track is relatively flat, but it is very enjoyable. And comparing this list to the likes of Ride 4's list, it's going to be very different in the sense of these are all circuit tracks compared to some of the different ones we had in Ride 4, such as very short and dangerous tracks to some of the long and more difficult and abstract tracks in Ride 4. But getting back to Termas de Rio Hondo, very much enjoy this one, and the AI in this one don't seem to be as competitive as they are in the other tracks in the list. But I do very much enjoy pushing the bike to the limits here in Termas de Rio Hondo. I think a lot of times I've been here in Argentina in past games, even in the season modes, I've done very well for myself in Argentina. I just think it's a fantastic track. It's a great track to just learn a motorcycle as well because it offers a lot of different styles of corners and gives you a chance to really learn how to manipulate the bike around the track. It's a certain favourite of mine, of course. Even watching MotoGP in real life, I always thought the action was fantastic here in Argentina, and it's a shame that the track, I believe, had a big issue and something to do with it burning down, or specific parts of the track has burnt down. I'm not entirely sure how true or up to date that information is, but fingers crossed we get to see the Termas de Rio Hondo once again in the near future. So we now move across to number 8, and we also move across countries because we go to Australia for Phillip Island. Number 8 on the list for Phillip Island, and I think that's a great spot. Of course, Phillip Island is a magnificent track and totally deserves in the top 10 spots. I actually made top 10 for both MotoGP 21 and Ride 4. That is how good Phillip Island is. Now, of course, the minority may say they're not a fan of Phillip Island, but I do believe the majority of us are massive fans of this wonderful circuit. And of course, Phillip Island features such memorable corners such as Lukey Heights, a Stoner corner, Turn 4 for Honda, and even Siberia as well. Just really great corners that really challenge the rider as a skilled player to become better at the game. I think Phillip Island's one of those tracks that if you're good at it, you'll really enjoy it. And if you're learning the game, it's still a good track to learn because it can offer some difficult moments. So you can be really good for the first couple of sectors, and then when you get up to Lukey Heights and Turn 10, you feel like this is where your powers are taken away from you, and then you are the momentum and the motivation is right there to then continue to push and to get better and better, to nail Lukey Heights going into Turn 10, to chuck out the right down easy boot and get yourself into that right-hander, which is very difficult. Don't get me wrong, I will always admit and confess that it is a very difficult corner to get right, but when you do, it is one of the most satisfying things in motorbike games in general. Probably very similar in real life. If you've ever ridden there, it's probably very, very difficult to navigate, but when you do, it must be immensely satisfying. We're across the line. That concludes Phillip Island, and now we move on to number 7 on the list for Silverstone, my home track here in Britain. Very, very popular track. I personally very much enjoy it. It's not the best British track we've ever had, but I very much enjoy Silverstone as a whole. So of course, using Aleix Espargaro, finished on the podium, it felt rather fitting to use Aleix Espargaro because unfortunately we don't have any British riders in MotoGP at the moment. But the sheer combination of corners in Silverstone, it's a difficult track to get right. It really is, because the amount of difficulty in some of the corners and the amount of flow that requires a good solid lap time is rather prominent here in Silverstone. It's a great track, it really is. I went there a couple of years ago when the race got cancelled in 2018, which I'm still a little bit miffed at, but safety comes first and that's all that matters. But honestly, some great tracks, great racing, and just great action as a whole in this track. In the game format, even in real life, I've always enjoyed Silverstone and more than happy to continue to keep coming here. The one thing I will say is, I hope we never change it to the F1 start, which is this one here. I really don't like this particular start. I much prefer the MotoGP start towards the back end of the circuit. I just find it's much more intense going into them final couple of corners, especially going into Luffield. Of course, myself making a wonderful move in Moto 2 last season in my career mode, right up on the inside of Remy Gardner. That battle was absolutely thrilling. Still very, very excited about that one. I still watch that one back every now and again. I just think it's a great track. I really love Silverstone, and I think because my races here as well in MotoGP from the career mode that I have done so far have all been great in Silverstone. I'm kind of working my sort of opinion around how that is. I've got a bit of bias towards real life moments as well, but at the same time, if it's good in the game, I'm more looking at that than it is right now towards as the actual Grand Prix itself. So if it's a really good race in real life, but I don't like playing it in the game, unfortunately, it probably won't make this list. But if I've had a cracking race in the video game, it will definitely make this list. Or at least I think it will anyway. So now moving across to number 6 on the list, it's time for Mugello, one of the best Italian tracks ever in MotoGP history, in my opinion. I very much enjoy this wonderful circuit. It's a difficult one, and I think MotoGP 21, I think it's the hardest to play compared to the other MotoGP games. I think Mugello in the earlier games probably would have made it higher on my list, but I'm not a massive fan of Mugello in MotoGP 21 because of my own skills. I don't seem to be very good here in Mugello, which is a little bit of a shame, to be honest, because I really do love this track, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not that competitive when it comes to Mugello, and I got to improve. There's something down to me. I've definitely got to start putting in more effort here in Mugello, but I still love the track. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place right here in the hills of Tuscany. Wonderful, wonderful circuit. Undulation, corners, tight corners, long corners, short corners. If you've seen the Ride 4 video, you know what the criteria is for what I like about tracks in general. But this one is a really, really good track. It's just one of the most iconic tracks of MotoGP history, in my opinion. I find it fantastic, but as mentioned, I don't find my skills here in Mugello to be as good as they should be. So I think I need to refine it and maybe come back and try to improve. And who knows, maybe my opinion will change with this list. But right now, from here today, these are my decisions on each and individual tracks. And of course, if you are enjoying the video so far, I would highly implore you to hit that like button and even subscribe as well, because of course I make a lot more videos just like this one all the time pretty much. And of course, exiting from Biondetti 1 and Biondetti 2, the heartbreaking zone of San Donato, the wonderful corner of Bacini, Scarperia, Casanova, Savelli, Materassi, the list goes on of just incredible corners here in Mugello, but unfortunately top 6 is all it mustered up here today in my top 10 list. So we now move across to Catalunya, number 5 for the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, right here in Montmeló, Spain. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful circuit, and Catalunya I think is probably one of my favourite tracks of all time in general. I very much enjoy the circuit. I think the corners suit my style very, very much. The hard braking zones going into La Caixa, whether that's the modern La Caixa older Lacacia, or even the one that was just sort of recently adjusted to the bus stop chicane style in Lacacia, which of course is turn 10 here in Catalunya. I do very much enjoy the circuit, I really do. I think the corners are really well made and gives you a lots of chance to really bring on the acceleration quite quickly out of a lot of these corners. It's a great track to use on specific bikes. I think maybe if you go in a Ducati it can be a little bit tough, but if you're riding a Yamaha, a Honda, maybe even a KTM, or the Aprilia of course, you can really chuck the bike into some of these corners, and I just think it's a really great circuit. The action in real life here is always good as well, but in the video game form I think I've always had great races. From the first season in Moto 3, wonderful race where we got Darren Binder in the final corner, I do believe. Moto 2 was very, very good as well, but I don't actually quite remember the result. I think I ended up crashing, chasing down Sam Lowes into Lacacia right here in turn 10, and then of course for MotoGP I do believe that one was a very exciting race as well, of course, which I had to carve my way through the pack. Really, really good stuff in Catalunya, very much enjoyable, and more than happy to put this one in my top 5 here in my top 10 list, as the corners will just always be very memorable for me, and I think I'll always be very competitive here in the Spanish circuit of Catalunya. But now that brings us into the top 4, which is getting tighter now, only a few more to go. So number 4 is going to be Le Mans, the French Grand Prix. Brilliant, brilliant circuit, always competitive here. In fact, we've actually been quite dominant in the MotoGP career mode, from Moto 3 to Moto 2 to MotoGP, every single time, coming out on top and winning by either a country mile or to the death in Recordman for the final corner. Now, Le Mans is one of those circuits I really, really enjoy, and so much so that I know all the corners of this wonderful circuit. And I think when you really, really like a circuit and you begin to learn all the corners, and I tend to learn all the corners anyway just because of my commentary style, I do like to try and learn them as I go. I do use a bit of assistance with the games in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, of course, but most of the time I try to learn it myself so I can give you a cohesive commentary for these videos that I tend to do. But I really like Le Mans, I really do. The hard braking zones, the very tight corners, and the action in MotoGP 21 in here. It's a little bit easy, to be quite honest with you, but when I did MotoGP, I absolutely dominated. It was my first victory of the season, and career, of course. And then Moto 3, that was the first one that I won in power setting 1, I believe. I only used power setting 1 throughout the entire duration of the Grand Prix, and I had an absolutely thrilling battle with John McPhee right towards the death, going into Recordman and taking the victory. It was truly something special, and the combination of the first couple of corners going up to the Dunlop chicane is just incredible. It's a wonderful section of corners, and I think Le Mans in general, a brilliant flowing circuit that I just adore, and truly deserves the top 4 position in our top 10 at MotoGP 21 tracks. But now it's time to look at the podium, and it's time for 3rd place with Jerez. Wonderful circuit, and I'll tell you now, every single time I play a new MotoGP video game, Jerez is one of the very first circuits I tend to go to. I very much enjoy this track. I find that it has a wonderful balance of being difficult but fair and exciting at the very same time. It has the combination of what I usually tend to like, the undulation, the hard braking zones, the soft braking zones, the gentle corners, the hard corners, you name it. It's got everything here in Jerez, and I really like this track because it tends to be that challenge that I crave when playing MotoGP 21. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I have some disastrous races here, but majority of the time I'm pretty competitive in this Spanish circuit. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful track. I would love to really go to this one out of all of the tracks, really. It's difficult to say which track I would really want to go to more than any, probably Mugello, but in the game I really like Jerez, and going to Andalucia to see the action would be really, really terrific. But honestly, in the game format, because I guess this is the MotoGP 21 list, not so much as the MotoGP list in general, I very much enjoy this one. Again, mentioned as Le Mans, another track that I tend to know all the corners for just throughout a sheer interest, and also of repetition, because I've done so many laps here in this wonderful circuit and done so many videos on this wonderful circuit, so it makes sense that I've kind of learned it over the years and learned it over the time that I've spent playing MotoGP video games, and really, really love Jerez. There's not much else for me to say about it, but it's just sheer bias for this one. I really like the circuit. I think it might be a little bit mixed, but usually the action is always good here, whether you play in the video game form or even watch in real life, of course. Really, really brilliant track. Very, very, very fond. But number 2 is now Misano. You may have been expecting this one to be number 1, but there's a little bit of a surprise for you after this one. But the Misano World Circuit to Marco Simoncelli does take second position, and we're using Joan Mir, of course, the world champion, for the wonderful track of San Rimini here in Misano. Very much enjoy the circuit. I think the action here in the game is not the best because they tend to be a little bit slower than the player, of course, but online the action here in Misano is always very good. And I even find just going to this circuit, doing a couple of laps, whether it be for the Moto 3 bikes, Moto E, MotoGP, or even Moto 2, it's very, very entertaining. And it's one of those tracks that it feels easy until you get up to Cavone and around that particular part of the sections of that track. The third split is super quick. It is extremely quick, but this track offers everything. Braking on an angle, braking firmly for such corners like Quercia, braking nice and gentle for a couple of corners, maybe not even braking at all, going into Cavone and just letting off the acceleration. And the acceleration of chucking that right-hander in for Cavone for turn 11 and then following it around for turn 12 and 13 is just awesome. Brilliant, brilliant combination of corners in Misano. I don't think anyone dislikes Misano. I'll be very surprised if someone says it's not in their top 10 list. If it isn't in your top 10 list, let me know in the comments section down below, of course. But Misano, truly love this circuit, and for me there is only one circuit that beats Misano, and it's very, very close. This list actually has been extremely close. This has been a very difficult list for me to make, but I have really enjoyed it, and I hope you are too. But number 1 is Assen. The TT Circuit of Assen, the cathedral of motorsport racing. Assen is your number 1 pick, or at least number 1 is Dr. Ace's number 1 pick. Assen, brilliant, brilliant circuit. I love this track so much. Playing it from every single video game from the beginning I ever played a MotoGP game to now in MotoGP 21, terrific. I love this track. It has those little cheeky corners such as Strubben for me to dive up on the inside and pick off an unsuspecting rider, and just a general wonderful sense of excitement and competition whenever I come and play here in MotoGP 21. Now you may be thinking, just because I'm good at these particular tracks, maybe that's why I've chosen, but I can actually tell you I'm not that great on Assen in the sense of world record leaderboard times and even playing online. There tend to be a little bit better players than me here in Assen, but I just love this circuit. It's one of those tracks I just want to jump on, do some laps and just enjoy myself around this wonderful circuit. Out of all the circuits in the world, you'd probably really love to do a track day on this particular track because it just looks like it offers everything that you would really, really enjoy. But honestly, I love Assen. I always will pick Assen as number 1, to be quite honest with you. It's usually and has been my go-to track as number 1 for many, many years, and it still stays true here today. But guys, that is going to be pretty much it from me. I really hope you've enjoyed my top 10 track lists of MotoGP 21. Got a lot more lists coming out soon, got more ideas and things to do on MotoGP and Ride 4, so I'd highly recommend you like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss any more action from Dr. Ace. But upon that note guys, thanks for watching and ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more Dr. Ace content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single Dr. Ace video.